All right, welcome to our Uber for Business webinar on the future of office work and workplace design. We're going to give everyone a few minutes to sign in, and the speakers are going to formally introduce themselves in a bit. My name is Cleo. I'm a B2B content strategist on the Uber for Business marketing team. And while we're waiting for everyone to kind of get settled, we're going to just kick it off with an icebreaker. So Mike, this question is to you first. What is your favorite Uber office and why?
Okay, thanks, Cleo. And I got to say it's San Francisco right now, only because it's so new and it's so cool, innovative. It's really cutting edge in terms of the design, but that could change, as we evolve and as we have newer offices coming online.
Thanks. Trish, what about you?
Yeah, I hate to pile on, but San Francisco office, our Mission Bay headquarters, is pretty unique and special and has many innovative features in it, as well as some of the cool amenity spaces that we're designing in our offices. So it's nice to be able to experience it. But like Mike said, there's going to be many other offices coming online in the near future with these same design aspects.
Wonderful. And Isabel?
Well, since I get the privilege of being able to have some insight on some of these designs and the offices that are upcoming, I'll plug Chicago Talent Hub and Mexico City. Those two are going to be pretty awesome, and they're going to open in the fall of this year. So those are right now my top two.
Amazing. Looking forward to hearing and seeing more about those in the coming months. So our quick agenda. We're going to talk a little bit about what Uber for Business is, and then we're going to jump right into a fireside chat with our Uber thought leaders. These are representatives of the workplace and real estate teams, experts on Uber's offices and Uber's return to office strategy. And at the end, we're going to leave some time for an audience Q&A. So today's speakers, you've met them briefly, but I would love to have them introduce themselves. So Mike, let's start with you. Just quick introduction about who you are and your role at Uber.
Sure. So thank you for that, Cleo. My name is Michael Huaco. I'm in charge of the workplace and real estate function for Uber. And that involves everything from, finding our locations, the real estate piece, to building them out, design, and the operations facilities management piece. So all those things, and I got a great team behind me that helps make this happen every day. So thank you.
Great. And Trish?
Yeah, Cleo. My name is Trish Johnson, and I'm part of Mike's team, and I oversee our transactions, projects, and the design team as well. So everything from finding the site, negotiating the lease, and then working with the architects and contractors to build out the space. And then, like Mike said, I have a peer that I turn it over to who runs it.
And Isabel?
Hi, everyone. I'm Isabel Thompson. I'm a global program manager for space and design. I manage our design guidelines so that we can build all of our spaces to have an equal experience, of course, with some local flair. And I am also on the real estate team under Trish, with an amazing team behind us that support us on all things design and planning.
Fantastic. Thank you all. Thank you all for joining. So just a reminder, if you have any questions during the webinar, we will open the floor at the end, but look for the Q&A icon at the bottom of the screen, submit them as the speakers are talking, and we will try to get to as many of them as we can after the fireside chat. Not working, there we go. Quick technical difficulties there. So quick introduction on Uber for Business. We bring the power of the Uber platform to businesses of all sizes in locations across the globe. And you can see some of our great stats there at the bottom. We are in 150,000 organizations globally, 26 countries, and growing all the time. And what's interesting about Uber for Business is that pre-pandemic, we were 98% business travel, I would say. It was a lot of business travel solutions, and we really had to pivot. And now we offer a robust suite of solutions to help companies, surprise and delight and accommodate their employees, their clients, their customers. So it's been a really interesting year and a half. And a lot of these solutions can really help companies as they're working through their return to office strategy. So no matter if you are doing a hybrid model, remote, fully back in office, whatever region you're in, whatever status your company is at the moment, Uber for Business can help. And our experts today are going to give a little insight into kind of how Uber is approaching it. And hopefully you'll have some great takeaways that you can apply to your own return to office work. Okay, so quick agenda addition here. So we are going to talk about Uber strategies on returning to the workplace. We are going to drill down into designing your workplace around the employee experience, and then talk a little bit about what the future of office work might look like. We've all experienced a lot of changes in the past year and a half, and it's really kind of altered the way we work and where we work. So looking forward to hearing from our experts. All right. So we are diving in. So Mike, I'm going to kick this over to you first. So Uber has already reopened some of its office doors, and many of its employees have been coming back, enjoying working in an office again after so much time at home. So I would love for you to just illuminate kind of what that process looks like.
Sure. No, thank you for that. So it really, the process it's an iterative process. It started early on, earlier this year when, as the pandemic started to wane and vaccines started to get rolled out and more people started getting vaccinated. But as it stands right now, it's purely on a voluntary basis. So as we developed our plan and we set a reopening date of September 13th, to institute our policy around the world. And again, this is completely dependent upon local health guidance. So, we put that date out there, but it's really entirely dependent upon the removal of restrictions by local health guidance. So it's really anchored on safety. And when we thought about this, we had some key milestones. So the first milestones was when a market or a certain area is going to get to some sort of herd immunity and when the restrictions will be lifted. So we anticipated that being sometime around June here for the US. And for the most part, it's kind of played out that way. The next big milestone is really the September date when we expect to implement our policy for many of our offices that can open. So that was kind of the process. And we also developed a campaign. We really wanted to get people in the office to start to get used to coming back. So we really saw this as a habit. A habit's been developed over the last 17, 18 months of, working from home. And now we're having to develop a new habit, which is coming back to work or coming back to the office, which involves a commute, involves, a routine that we haven't had in maybe the same way in the last 18 months. So part of our marketing campaign really involved newsletters and Slack channels and really making it fun to come back. So we have a lot of great amenities, great food, great events in the offices. So we've seen the numbers start to climb, as folks start to come back in the office and really start to acclimate in a very slow roll, and very slow iterative approach in a very safe way as well. So as more people come in, they tell their friends, hey, it's not so bad, it's actually pretty fun. And what we've seen is really that collaboration start to happen. So we're really learning a lot just about behavioral patterns, how spaces are getting used on a much smaller scale. So, and as we, as the year progresses and things get a little better, we'll see the volumes increase. And that's kind of how it's been working for us at this point.
Great, thank you. So the pandemic has really shaped the office environment in a way that we've never seen before. And, we're working with accommodating for health and safety guidelines. Some of our Uber employees have returned to new offices that they had never seen before. And really, I know you all have spoken about creating an environment for employees to enjoy. So Trish, I would love for you to talk to us about, as employees have started coming back, what new learnings have you all uncovered now that operations are up and running?
Yeah, thanks for that, Cleo. Yeah, I think, like you said, Uber's in a pretty unique position where the majority of our employees either have been hired during the pandemic or left one set of buildings and are now entering into new buildings. So it's quite a different experience. And I think that what we've learned is we've had the benefit of having a slow return. So in these new offices, we have what's called day two items, which you would typically be working on in a fully occupied, buzzing office. But in the situations we have, it's been a slow return. So we've had a bit of a luxury in being able to take care of some of those day two items. And, a good example, I'm sitting in the atrium of our headquarter building here in San Francisco. And one of the features of this building is the windows that you see behind me open and close with the temperature. And so that's very innovative. It's very new. And that's one of the things that we're working through, right? Is making sure that that's synchronized and things are operating as they should. But we really had the luxury of doing that without a fully occupied building.
That's great. So Isabel, I know you've talked in the past about really prioritizing how employees are experiencing the office on a day-to-day basis, just the holistic experience that they have. And so I would love for you to speak to us about how that sort of underlying tenet has influenced the office design.
Absolutely. Thank you, Cleo. In the last couple of years, we've really focused entirely on what our employee experience is. And we have the benefit of the doubt, right? That now, even in a post-pandemic world, that is of most highest priority for us. We're really creating these spaces that are unique, that have surprise and delight moments. I'm actually sitting in another building in Mission Bay. It's our wellness suite. And I know you can't really tell, it might look like an actual picture, but I'm in the space. And these are some wellness pods. I don't know a lot of other companies that have locations like these and spaces for employees to really just go and sit and potentially meditate and just disconnect from the space. We've really focused on making sure that these spaces are welcoming for employees, especially as they return back from the year plus that we have all had. We really want to be thoughtful about that experience, the well-being, the collaboration piece of really coming into the office and seeing your colleagues for the first time and having spaces that support that function. Like I said, I've been here for a couple days and I come in periodically and I love the buzz of the office. I don't think I realized how much I missed being in the office and getting dressed and having that routine again. And really, each location is going to have that. It's just all going to be slightly different. And that's the beauty of designing these locations all over the world and the globe. You're each going to have a little bit of a gold nugget here and there that's going to be different. And I can't wait for everyone to see and experience that.
Amazing. Yeah, it seems like there's so much to look forward to. So we're going to switch gears a little bit. Part of, I guess, a silver lining, if you will, of the pandemic, it's allowed us to rethink a lot of things, including prioritizing sustainability. So Mike and Trish, I would love you to talk about kind of Uber's priorities in terms of sustainability and really how that has played a role in office design, bringing employees back, and the employee experience as a whole.
Sure. Thanks, Cleo, for that. And, sustainability just as a whole for us is super important at Uber. I mean, it's really one of the hallmarks of our brand. And about 2.5 years ago, when we really thought about, embarking on this hub strategy, it was really focused on, number one, attracting and retaining the best talent around the world. So part of that, an element of that was to have facilities that were highly sustainable, that were we're trying to do the right thing, doing the right thing by our employees, doing the right thing in the right market, with the communities that we work in. And as we thought about this, we really wanted to build to a very high LEED standard and also the new wellness certification. So like our headquarters at Mission Bay or many of our other facilities around the world, we were really building to a very high level of wellness and health. And we felt, that it's important, for the employees to be healthy and well. You get greater productivity, and it becomes also a beacon, an attraction. It gives us competitive advantage in hiring in very tight labor markets. Now, this was done, the concepts were created 2.5 years ago. Now, as many of these buildings are coming online, like our Mission Bay or Chicago, New York, Amsterdam, Mexico City, and various others around the world, they're coming online this year. And it's just fortuitous. We had no idea that there was going to be a pandemic, but these are some of the healthiest facilities that anyone can work in anywhere in the world. And I'm happy to say by the end of this year, over 50% of our employee population will be housed in these types of facilities, with many more coming in the next year. So, and really, it's a remarkable achievement, and one that I think sets us apart from many other companies that are trying to embarking on this now. So I'll turn it over to Trish to add a little more color.
Yeah, thanks, Mike. Like Mike mentioned, Cleo, sustainability has been an important aspect of our design guidelines well before the pandemic. And as Mike mentioned, LEED and WELL certifications are part of that, but we also consider local alternatives such as BREEAM and Green Mark, which are in some of the other countries. So very, very important to us. So some of the things that the employees would experience in these buildings that are WELL and LEED certified is we have routine air quality monitoring, performance checks that are at the highest standards that we uphold to maintain these certifications. We also have access to filtered water throughout our facilities. At some of our larger sites, we have full service kitchens with the diversity of food stations offered to the employees. Most of our offices will have plenty of outdoor eating space with views of nature, just so employees can relax and regroup and again, maintain that healthy balance. So these are all aspects that are intended to enhance the employee experience.
Wonderful. And Isabel, you gave us just a prime example of some of the wellness offerings, but I'm wondering, and I'm kind of putting you on the spot here a little bit, all of you, are there any other specific features you can tease out about sustainable and wellness features of the new offices? Could be in San Francisco or beyond.
A big program of ours is obviously the inclusion of our fitness centers. Those are part of our talent hubs, and that's incredibly important for us as well as our employee population to give them that experience. It's the whole thought of being able to go into the office and getting everything you need to do, but within an arm's reach, kind of, right? It's all under one location and housed together, and that makes life honestly so much easier, right? You don't have to think so hard. The fitness aspect is really important, and it really does help with our not just employee experience, well-being mentally, and retention too. You don't have to go out and find these locations outside of our office. We already have that here for our employees to use and use happily.
I think one of the interesting aspects of the design, in addition to the more natural light air and the food we serve and all of that, is just the way it's been designed with really mobility in mind to avoid a sedentary lifestyle. So you'll see a lot more internal stairs, and we really promote movement. So it's part of our brand. We move things, people, and goods around the world, and the interior design of our spaces are intended to move people and move employees in between different seating areas. And it's really, all of that is embedded into the design and avoids a sedentary lifestyle.
Wonderful. All right, so we're going to look to the future a little bit now. And this is a question for all three of you, but Isabel, I'll have you start. Curious to hear your thoughts on just what the future of Uber office work looks like.
Yeah, so we've touched a little bit on it, but the aspect that Mike just mentioned about the mobility piece is really important. We design these spaces purposefully. The whole point of their employees coming in is that they have no idea that we're actually designing them and forcing them through our spaces and the experiences that they have, right? You enter most of the floors, if we have a multi-story building, into a beverage bar or break room so that it's easy for you to be able to get water, get a snack before you go on with your day. We've given and are planning all of our sites really with the employee in mind, focused on providing these options for them to choose. Each day that an employee comes in, it might be a different experience. One day you might come in and just need focus time because it's really loud and crazy in your home and you just want a desk. You can do that. There's other days when you need to be in meetings and you want to have the right setup and have your Zoom working well and your internet great. Well, you come into the office for that. And let's say you also want to come in and collaborate and see your colleagues again, or just run into someone that's a friend that's not on your team. All those dynamic interactions are purposeful, and we've purposefully designed our spaces with those type of interconnecting stairs, with different amenities that are adjacent to each other. All of that really creates an experience that shouldn't be even thought about by the employees and the users. It just comes naturally, and that's when we know we've done our job.
Mhm, mhm. I love that. And I personally have experienced all three of those examples that you've mentioned, the diversity of workspaces, just being able to, grab a smoothie or just have the Zoom working. I think that will resonate with a lot of people as well. Trish and Mike, anything to add in terms of, future of office work and kind of what you're thinking about?
I would say that, as we gain momentum and teams are returning to the office, we're going to be studying and engaging them in surveys to really understand what we should change and what the future should look like. But I have to say, it's just a bit of a wait and see on the future, right? It's one thing when everybody's working remotely and experiencing the same thing. And I think it could be different whenever half the folks are in the office and the other half working from home. So I just think that we have to just work very closely and partner with our employees on what needs to change in the future.
Mm-hmm. I would tend to agree. And the last thing I'd say on this is that, we have to be able to adapt and pivot to how things are changing, not just within Uber, but really in the communities that we work in. I mean, this whole thing is changing rapidly. So, I mean, we were, how we viewed the world even 3 or 4 months ago has completely changed, and it will continue to change. I think for us, it's going to be really important to adapt and change as we come back to some level of normalcy over the next year.
Yeah, it really is such an evolving process, and it's kind of a nice lesson in learning to live in the present, but also being future looking. I'm wondering also, just to kind of build on that, you all have spoken so thoroughly about surprise and delight moments and experiences within the office. What are some other things you're doing to kind of make employees' lives easier, have them looking forward to coming back as we're looking at this future of office work in terms of commute and other things like that? And this can be for anyone.
Sure. I would say, one of the big things, we've learned in the last couple of months as we, brought people back is the food. People love the food. And we have, at least in San Francisco, these huge pizza ovens, and people go crazy for this stuff. It's like they really want to come in, and it's I think a great amenity to bring people together. Food is kind of the great unifier. But we've seen that we're hosting a lot of small events, happy hours and little things like that to get people together, some team meetings. So those are things that are, getting people to just to get together. I think it's not having done that for the last 18 months. It's been something that people haven't realized they've been missing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, certainly powerful. Anything else to add before we kind of transition into our Q&A from any of our panelists?
No, I'm good, Cleo. Thank you.
Awesome. Before we jump in, just a few quick takeaways. So obviously focusing on the employee experience is something, we're thinking about really every day, all the time at Uber, and supporting employees in and out of the workplace is paramount in terms of easing the transition and really being partners with your employees to make the changes as you reopen. And, all three of our speakers really touched on, it is an evolving process. It's a give and take, and, we're kind of living in the moment and planning for new and exciting things. And, it's going to be great to see what happens in the next few months. So, all right. So as a reminder, if you have any questions, feel free to get those in, and we've got a few on deck already. So we're just going to move right into the first one. We would love to hear about some specific successes Uber has seen upon reopening the office. And Mike, let's start with you.
Sure. I'd say really the biggest successes is, as I walk around many of the floors and talk to a lot of folks informally, is just the collaboration, this whole social fabric, reestablishing a social fabric within an office. I see people smiling. We've had, as I mentioned, happy hours, but just people being able to work collaboratively in an office, and also having not just sitting at a desk and working, but really some of the other soft seating and some of the other team areas that people are using, and maybe using in a way that we didn't design, which is great. That's what we want to learn from that, and we want to do more of that. So I'd say the delight has been just how people are collaborating in new ways, and really just having that separation from work and life, personal life. That's the other thing I've heard back from many of my employees. It's nice to have that separation. So
agreed. Yeah, agreed. Okay, our next question is, what were some major design shifts that resulted because of the pandemic? And Trish or Isabel can tackle this one.
Isabel, do you want to take it?
Yeah, absolutely. So actually, we were all I think Mike mentioned this already, but we were actually thinking about the future and forward planning before the pandemic occurred. So we had made some changes for our talent hubs, even pre-pandemic, that we were planning that are actually incredibly helpful now. We are highly focused on the collaboration piece for our teams and our employees. We've incorporated things like what we call a team room that can be pop-in team meetings, where you can actually have a digital whiteboard, and the technology is a lot more advanced than some of our other meeting rooms. And there you can meet with people in office or virtually, and they can all see kind of what you're writing on the whiteboard. I thought that was something that, we had already been planning, and now even in a post-pandemic world is so much more important, because it's that fact that we can include everyone in these conversations, whether you choose to be at home, remote, or in office, you'll still have that opportunity to collaborate. We've touched a little bit on some of the other elements that are highly important and are part of our design standard foundations, and that includes those dynamic work opportunities where you can choose to select whether to work in a formal workstation or other locations. And of course, now even more so, inclusion of amenities like the food program, full service kitchens, servery spaces, wellness suites. I mean, the list goes on. And I don't want to give everything away because I want our employees to be excited to come into the office, but there's such an importance placed on these pieces, because that really creates a holistic experience for us when we choose to come into the office. And I always like to put myself in, not a designer and not on the workplace team's kind of shoes. I want to be an employee that is also excited to come into the office, right? And that is incredibly important. And it's part of that perspective piece where we really want to get feedback from employees. And I try to run into people. If I see someone in the break room that I don't know, I introduce myself and I'm like, okay, what do you think? Do you like it? So things like that are super important, and that will help us continue to evolve our design guidelines and those experiences for the changing world that we're all living in.
Great. That was actually a really nice segue into our next question. Can you speak specifically about partnering with employees before the reopening and kind of in this phase of the reopening that we're in now? You mentioned some of the communication styles. I think Mike mentioned this, but anything else specific you can talk about how employees are really part of this process of office reopening?
Sure, I can take a stab at it first. We have a strong Slack community across all of our offices. We've used that tool as an opportunity to get immediate feedback from our employees for those that have chosen to come into the office. That's kind of the first opportunity for employees to speak directly to our teams, and our workplace teams within each of the locations are always on those Slacks. I'm constantly looking at them to see what the feedback is and things like that. We also are having post-occupancy surveys, and Trish touched a little bit on it. And those are, quick surveys that we want our employees to kind of give us direct feedback from their experiences. And then I don't want to take away from the fact that we really just, like Mike mentioned, we ask, we just see people. We want to see what that experience is like. Today I was at the smoothie bar and I asked the cook there, I was like, how's the feedback? What are people saying? So things like that, we try to take feedback in every way possible. But I don't know, Trish, if you have anything else to add that I may have missed.
Yeah, no, I think the Slack has been super helpful, but some of the other things that we're doing to engage the employees is hosting tours of the sites. Like I'd mentioned, many of these offices are brand new and they've never seen them. So we have team days, happy hours that we bring the employees in and show them around. In fact, I just was sitting here as a tour was coming through and, just kind of explaining the buildings, how they operate, where to find things. So really trying to do that. We had a really successful open house a couple of weeks ago where we had booths set up to talk about transportation and some of the amenities in the buildings, just really to engage the employees in this process of returning. So it's a smooth return. Like Mike said earlier, we've all established habits over the last 18 months. And so we're trying to create a new habit and really get them involved in the process.
That's great. Switching gears a little bit, the next question is, we talked a little bit about the successes. How do you tackle any reopening roadblocks? And that can be, a wide range of things, but love to kind of hear you all speak about approaching and overcoming some of those challenges you might have experienced along the way.
I mean, I can start and then I'm happy to hear from both Isabel and Trish, but I'd say, the biggest ones have been right now, before we do a formal opening, has been just the opening and the closings due to COVID. So we've had resurgences, we've had to open and close offices numerous times. And, that's probably the biggest roadblock until we get to some level of stability. That is going to be a constant in our business. We're hopefully coming out of this, even with the Delta variant. But as I mentioned before, we have to follow local health guidance. So, and the local health guidance is not just within a city; it can be within a county or a state. It varies widely. So, country by country, city by city. So, those are, I'd say, I wouldn't say it's a roadblock, but it's something that we have to adapt and pivot to the reality on the ground. And that does impact the reopenings significantly. So, but we're getting better at it as we've opened and closed the offices. I don't know how many times now, but yeah, it's becoming almost a habit.
Yeah, I would just add that, like Mike said, pivoting is important. And we have a team, our EH&S team, our workplace services team, a whole task force that's ready to pivot, on a dime if things need to change quickly. So I don't know. I mean, I think the way that we've addressed the roadblocks is really by putting skilled and, people with experience in this in place to help us navigate any changes that come. Isabel, I don't know if you have anything to add.
I think looking back on the year plus we've had in the design and projects that have been in flight, one of the things that did occur early on when no one really knew what was going on with the pandemic is everything shut down. We had a ton of projects that were in flight, ready to open last year, and we just had to stop. And mostly because of restrictions for working and construction. And so that obviously delayed a lot of our projects and our openings. Now, a year plus later, looking on it again, it's gave us an opportunity to make slight adjustments here and there as needed to best support our employee population. So it was a little bit of a blessing in disguise. And now we're really looking forward, like I mentioned early on, to a couple large projects opening in the fall towards the end of the year that we couldn't be more excited for. So that's definitely been a positive. That was a little scary at first, but now it's great.
And one other thing I forgot to mention was, I'd say another big roadblock that we've seen was initially, and it still is, the commute. Getting the apprehension about taking public transportation or just coming to the office, getting to the office. It's not something that we take lightly. It has been a roadblock, but at Uber for Business, we have some great products that are helping us get over that hump and making it easier. So we think about the employee experience from the time an employee wakes up in the morning to the time they go home, and that includes the commute.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Yeah, the way you all speak about it, you make it sound simple, but we know there's a lot of complex processes that go on behind the scenes. So moving back to something, Mike, you said a little while ago about really partnering with local organizations. I mean, you're tasked with Uber's real estate strategy globally. So can you speak a little bit about how you work with the local or the government entities to really make sure that the return to office and the office reopening strategies are, on point with what's going on in the different regions?
Sure. As we mentioned earlier, we have a large EH&S team, environmental health and safety team, that monitors basically all the incidences, if there are any, of contact tracing, all those things. So we also work with all the local health officers within a city or a county, and we're plugged into all the guidance that they provide. So we're not, we take all that very, very seriously. And, we've been very lucky, or just have had really a solid team to monitor all this around the world, because it is very different. We have to adapt and pivot to what is the rules on the ground. And in some countries, we've had to open and close numerous times. In some of the countries in Asia that in the beginning had it under control and now are closing up again. So it's, this is just part of what we're dealing with now. We also have partnered with ServiceNow and co-developed an app that helps us facilitate an orderly return to the office. It does a health attestation every day. So it allows us to monitor employees coming in, as well as keeping everybody safe. At the end of the day, the foundation of our return to the work program is based on safety. So safety first, that's one of our foundations at Uber and everything we do.
Thank you. So last question, we'll end on a happy note, and I'd love all three of you to answer this. Maybe Trish, we can start with you. What are you most looking forward to as we move into hopefully a period where doors are fully open, everyone's able to be back in office?
Yeah, I think it's being with the team, most important, and having a taste of it here the last several months that we've been coming in. It's just been so refreshing. So really miss the team. We have a lot of fun together, and it's been really tough, over the last 18 months being apart. So I'm looking forward to being able to be in the new buildings, really exercise the way they're intended to work. It's all about movement and activity based design. So yeah, I think it's a team for me. How about you, Mike?
For me, I totally agree with you. It's the team. It's all of you guys. Everybody's done a tremendous job, an exceptional job of creating these great new workspaces. But it's also, I say, stability. I'm looking forward to some stability, as the pandemic wanes and we get to some level of normalcy and predictability. So I look forward to that.
And for me, I think that I love the team and I love seeing them, but I also am so looking forward to having a separation between life and work. I have a toddler at home who is always running around, and even if I'm in meetings, will run into my meetings and has made his appearance on many Zoom calls. But having that separation where I can definitely focus on work, on being on calls and being present in work versus at home, and being present at home when I'm at home, I highly, highly value that. And I'm so excited to have that back.
Thank you all for your answer. That's fantastic. So that concludes our webinar. Thank you all so much for joining. Thank you to our panelists for sharing their knowledge. And on the screen here, you'll see our website. If you're interested in contacting a member of the team to learn more about our products, we offer custom demos, so feel free to reach out. And if we didn't get to your question as well, we'll have a team member reach out and to talk further about how our platform and our products can potentially help your organization with your return to office strategy. So good luck to everyone in the future as we all navigate sort of this quote new normal. And it was great to have everyone here today.
Thank you.
Leo,
Thank you.
have a good day.
Take care.